So I was running into the cabin to grab my last tray of plants, and I happened to look up. I don't think this afternoon is going to be a great afternoon to harden off my plants. Let me show you. We have a big, nasty thunderstorm coming our way. I just checked the radar. So I'm definitely gonna have to drag these guys back inside. We'll do it again tomorrow. Looks like I have a couple of minutes before the storm hits, so I wanted to quick give you guys a little tour of what I've done for improvements on my front garden. So I have a few little raised beds right by the cabin for kind of easy access to grab stuff when I'm cooking or whatever, because my main garden is kind of far back there. So I just threw some seed down a few days ago and some cold tolerant stuff that should do just fine. I think it's supposed to hit 25 tonight, but it'll probably be all right. I'll show you what I have going on. So these are my raised beds that I got from Epic Gardening. I love these. They are gonna last forever. They were super easy to install. I'll link them in the description if you'd like to check them out. I also have a 5% off discount. But to show you what I've seeded so far, these are 3 different baby greens. I have an Ironman mix, a Hot Chop mix, and then a Yankee Hardy mix. The Ironman is like a kale mix, and that lasts all summer, which is great. Where these baby greens, they tend to bolt and they don't last too much past the spring. So I do little bands all the way through there. So those should germinate and maybe come up in a few days. We'll see. And then over here, I did 2 long strings of radishes. I actually have 4 different varieties. One is a watermelon and one is a black radish, so I'm super excited to try those. These are a couple rows of turnips, and then these are rutabagas. So I have not planted these yet. I'm actually gonna wait on those and then just do it for a fall harvest. So that's still blank. And then over here, these are my perennials. So these are strawberries that are coming up. Hopefully we'll get to harvest those in June probably. This is my St. John's wort that is coming back, I believe. We can see just a little bit of green growth down there. So that is a great medicinal plant. And that spot is empty and I can't remember what I'm putting there, but there is something going there at some point. And then this is also going to be another medicinal bed. So right here I seeded in some comfrey. It does well direct seeding in cool soil. And comfrey is a wonderful like wound healer and it knits the skin together. So that's good for an herbal toolkit. So I'm pretty excited. So I just need to remember that these are here so I can keep up with watering, but not necessarily today. We'll be good for a while. Ooh, one more thing up here that I'm planning on expanding is this little side area. I'm a huge fan of using landscaping for food. You don't have to use useless bushes on the side of your house. So these are some blueberry bushes that I actually brought with me from our old property. These are rhubarb. These are well over 100 years old. This plant has been passed through my family actually, and it came over on the boat from Sweden. So very special to me. I definitely brought it with us when we moved. And then in the next week, I'm hoping to get this next section totally expanded. And I'm gonna plant some herbs along here, I think some sorrel and some other things. So I'm super excited to expand this little spot and just make use of it. Oh man, I had to poke my head out here because it sounded awful. There is a little bits of hail coming down. Woohoo! Definitely glad the plants aren't out here for this. So I just got home from running some errands. I usually go every other week to do a sweep and get raw milk and all the good stuff. So I picked up some really exciting stuff today that I had to show you guys. So one, you might already notice behind me, I got a forsythia. So I stopped by my favorite old greenhouse. It was back by our old homestead. And I've been wanting one of these for years. They're the first to bloom, and just when you have long winters, some bright pop of color really goes a long way. So I'm excited about that. I also got a couple lilac bushes. At our old homestead, we had a ton of lilac bushes and I miss them. So I'm gonna put a couple of those in. I got some herbs. So I grow most of my own herbs, but a few of them I do buy. So one is rosemary. So I bought 2 of them. They're a woody stem. I want to say this is probably a 2-year plant. They're just a little harder to start from seed, and rosemary does not survive the winter here in zone 3/4 Minnesota. I try to bring it in the winter and it just dies every time. So I just get a new one. I also got some sage, same story. It's a woody stem plant. It's a little older. I've tried hard at starting it from seed and I just fail miserably every time. You can probably hear them. So these are silkies. I was able to find a great MPIP hatchery down in Forest Lake. I'm so excited. Yay, little babies. They're just so cute. Gosh, it's really turned into a nice day. Now I'm bummed that I was gone for hours running errands, but I think we're going to reattempt the hardening off of the seedlings and getting the tomatoes up potted because they're starting to look a little scraggly. We have some phosphorus deficiency going on, so I'll show you how I fix that. So I'm going to pull my plants out, round 2, get the chicks settled, and then we'll do all the fun plant stuff. So my little seedlings have been out for about an hour or 2. That's pretty good when you're just starting off with hardening off your plants. If you're not familiar with the term, it's basically just that adjustment period where your plants are getting used to being in the great outdoors. Being inside, yes, they have grow lights, but it's just not quite the same as the intense sun. And then you have the wind and just changes in temperature because indoors it's pretty much a flat 70 degrees all the time. So it's great to kind of start acclimating them to different environments before you throw them into the garden. For example, when I first put out my tomatoes for the first time, they actually burned a little bit on the leaves, even though they were only out here for about an hour. So if I would have just planted them outside and they had a full day outside, that would have not been good. So it's important to take this step, and yes, it's a lot of work hauling them back and forth and everything, but it's really going to help harden off your plants so that they are going to be nice and healthy and ready for the garden. So here are my tomatoes. They are looking better than they did. They had really deep purple veining going on and they were pretty purple on the underside, which is a classic sign of phosphorus deficiency. So I did fertilize them a couple of days ago and it's already made a difference. They're bouncing back. So if you're noticing that on your tomatoes, they probably just need a little bit more fertilizer. And here on this kind of like dry and sad leaf, you can see the evidence of the purple that was there. So we're definitely looking a lot better, but I'm going to change my game with my fertilizer. So this is the fertilizer that I've been using on top of just some compost that I have in the mix as well. It stinks to high heaven, but I do love it, but it's not super high in phosphorus. It has some. It's a 2-3-1. So it's 2 parts nitrogen, 3 parts phosphorus, 1 part potassium. And it just wasn't quite cutting it for the tomatoes at least. So I'm upgrading to this one. So this is a 4-6-2. So definitely a higher dose. So I think these will be good for the tomatoes. The rest of my seedlings look amazing. So I don't think I'm going to bother switching everybody over, but we're going to give this a go. So first I need to head back to my garden shed so I can grab a few things. I have my little bag with me. So this is where I'm going to be mixing up some potting mix essentially. So I like to add 1 part seed starting mix, 1 part compost, and 1 part garden soil. And thankfully now our soil is thawed out, so it doesn't matter quite as much. But early on, like in February when I was starting my onions, the ground is completely frozen. And so last fall, I saved a bunch of soil and compost and put them in tubs. So that's where I'm going to be grabbing that so we can add it to the mix. And then we'll mix the fertilizer into that as well. And it's going to be awesome for the tomatoes. So here we go, my 2 little tubs. So this is my soil, which is pretty much heavy clay. Look at that. Yep, we have some work to do. And then this is the compost, so much better. All right, I'd say that's pretty good. We still need to save room for 1/3 of our mix to be the seed starting mix. But before we mix up this last little bit, I thought I'd run through and give you a little tour of what seedlings I'm growing this year because I need to probably move these peppers inside now. It's starting to cool off and those peppers really don't like cool temperatures. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and zip through here. So Here I have some eggplant. I grow about 5 of them. I think there's a 5th one somewhere. There we go. I have a mix and match box here. We have some random peppers and then a random tomato. I'm doing 4 different varieties of tomatoes. So most of them are all over here. I would say most of them are canning tomatoes. So I'm doing Amish paste and Roma tomatoes. I have 1 cherry tomato and I think 1 slicing tomato, but mostly for canning. And then these are my bok choy. We have some kohlrabi here, some other Asian greens. What else? These are little kales. These need up potted soon. They're still in the little guys. We have some cabbage here. These also need up potted. And then here I have lots of different kinds of peppers. I love peppers. So we have different bell peppers, hot peppers, poblano peppers. This is a new one for me, Scotch bonnets. We went to Jamaica for a family wedding in February and I fell in love with Scotch bonnet peppers. It is a really slow growing pepper. I think it takes 100 days to ripen. So we'll see how it does in our Minnesota weather, but I'm gonna give it a try. Over here is a lot of flowers. So these are calendula. I love them just in the garden to support pollinators, but it's also a great medicinal flower as well. I like to infuse it into oils and make a tallow balm. You can also make face lotion, all sorts of great things with calendula, and it's just beautiful. I love having flowers in the garden. This is marigold, another beneficial flower in the garden. It helps attract pollinators and it also repels pests too, so I always incorporate marigold throughout my garden, spaced in between plants. And then over here is just a bunch of onions. We love onions around here. We're still eating onions from last year. I think this one is chives, so thought I'd bring those back in. I forgot to bring a division with me when we moved, so I had to start from scratch with the chives. But that's looking really good. I'm still trimming them, so you can see they're all kind of not short, but they've been trimmed. They're not floppy, so what happens then if you trim it with the scissors is it's going to help direct the plant growth into developing big bulbs instead of really lots of green. So love trimming the onions. That makes a difference. I have some different herbs in here. I have some parsley. I just have one little thyme. My thyme is coming back from what I planted last year, so I didn't need a ton. I just did one as a just in case. This is lemon balm. It's absolutely delicious, just in ice water, or you can dry it and make a tea. Good stuff. This is oregano in here. These are all broccoli. We love broccoli and I can never get enough. So I think I'm doing 18 broccoli plants this year. So I'm excited about those. This is Napa cabbage for kimchi. Love kimchi. And then I believe, what are these guys? Oh, Brussels sprouts. So I have a handful of those in here as well. So we already have our 1 part compost, 1 part garden soil mixed in there. So the compost is obviously going to provide nutrients. I found a rock in here. And the garden soil is going to help introduce these plants to my garden environment. So that's a key step. And then just have some seed starting mix. I've been using Purple Cow the last couple years. They do a pretty good job. And it's something that I can find locally, which is nice. So the dosage for this is to add 1 to 2 tablespoons per gallon of soil. I probably have 2 gallons of soil, so we'll do something in the middle. Let's do 3 tablespoons. So this is what this stuff looks like. It's a mix of fish bone meal, blood meal, feather meal, alfalfa meal, rock phosphate, langbonite, and kelp meal. So all really good stuff that I think the tomatoes are gonna love. Doesn't seem like much, but that's all it's calling for. I'm just gonna go ahead and do 4. Why not? Let's mix it all up. And as far as pots go, I'm trying to use the deepest pots that I have. I don't have too many that are this size. This is perfect. Some of mine are shorter, but we're just gonna do the best we can because we're gonna be burying tomatoes deep in the pot as much as possible. So for example, for this seedling here, I'm gonna be removing this leaf. I don't know if my hand's in the way. There we go. I'm removing this leaf. I just use my fingernails. If you don't have good fingernails, you can just use a scissors or something like that. And I'm gonna try and bury it about this far deep into the soil because Then all along the stem, it's gonna develop more and more roots. So tomatoes do great buried deep. So every time I up pot it, I'm gonna keep burying it deeper. Also when I put it in the garden. So the nice thing about these Epic seed starting trays is they feature a hole in the bottom, so you can just poke your finger in there and you can pop the seedling right out, which is great. So no more digging around. And you can see that we are ready for some transplanting. So the roots have already spread all the way through the pot. We're ready for a little bit more room. All right, so we're gonna put our little seedling in there. Got our new soil, full of nutrients all the way around it. Kind of pat it down. And this is gonna be a very happy tomato. There we go, so buried up there. And now it's gonna be nice and strong, loaded with nutrients. We'll be set at least for a few more weeks until we're ready for the next size up. Hi, you gonna help me make tomatoes? You help me make tomatoes? Hi, Tucker. Smacking your chops. What you been eating? Now these are my Amish paste tomatoes. These guys are definitely ready for a bigger pot. Trim off the lower leaves. This is my pink bower tomato. This is gonna be my slicer. Oh, she looks so beautiful. I'm making a total mess. That's why doing out here is much preferred over inside the cabin. There's 2 left. So these are Mountain Vineyard. These are my 2 little cherry tomatoes. I'd say they're probably more like a grape tomato. I freeze dried a lot of those cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, and they're awesome. Thrown in soups. We've been putting them in quiche, all the things. Yay, I think that's good for now. We're gonna see the tomatoes just explode now that they have the extra room, those extra nutrients. I'm super pumped about it. And here they are, my little tomato family. We have a gorgeous day and then it's gonna rain for 4 days. So it's now or never to do some final prep in the garden. I know I told you guys on the last video that I was done doing the prep minus the broad fork, but I'm always trying to think of new ways to make the garden even better and just improve my methods. And so I have one more project that I'm gonna do to help control the weeds and help the electric fence work a little bit better. So once I get back here, I'll give you a little look at the next project that I'm up to. Okay, so on my last video when we did garden prep together and we put up this electric fence, I was talking about how it's important that the hot wires don't touch the ground, otherwise it can short it out. As you can see, there's a lot of growth right underneath the fence. And so you have a couple options. What I did last year and in previous years, well, let me take it back. What I did in previous years is I just kept it weeded, and that was easy with my sandy soil at our last homestead. But here we have heavy clay, so my hula hoe just isn't cutting it. It's a whole lot harder. And so last year we had to come by and I just held up the fence for Ryan and he weed whacked under it frequently, and that just kind of got annoying. So this year I have a new game plan. So here's a section that I already started. So I am manually weeding a thick band underneath the fence. Hopefully that's the only time I'll ever have to do that. And then I'm laying down wood chips around the perimeter. So I only got this little bit done earlier but I'm hoping, hopefully I'll be able to get a decent amount of the perimeter. So I'm excited. I think it'll be good addition just to the garden. It'll be better than cardboard. I did use cardboard on my walking rows and around the perimeter, I guess, too, last year in a moment of desperation when the weeds were just out of control and I didn't have a lot of time and we had a lot of cardboard from the move. So this year I'm wanting to do a little bit better of a method. I might even do wood chips down the walking aisles. I haven't decided on that. We'll see. Let's get started. First, I want to make sure that I don't hit the fence. That would not be good. And I love my hula hoe. I just don't think it's just not working in the clay soil very well. So I've just been using a straight up normal hoe. It's a little bit of work, but it works. And then I've just been going through and kind of breaking it back up because I don't want to just pull the chunks out and then I'd lose some of that topsoil. So just kind of breaking it up and then pulling the weeds out. I've been debating just straight up putting wood chips on top and not doing this step, but half of me thinks that they're just going to grow right through anyways if I'm not doing wood chips super thick. So it'll be worth the effort, I think. So like with most things, that ended up being a bigger job than I was anticipating. I'm about a third of the way around. Now I'm wondering why I haven't been using our little tiller. That would have been so much easier. But I am a glutton for punishment and honestly I don't mind the activity. Beats a day in the gym anyways, but my hands are starting to get tired, so I think I'm gonna switch over to wood chips. So I'm really happy with how this is looking. I think this is going to be much easier to maintain. The only thing is this fence is still flopping, right? The hot wires are touching the ground, which we don't want. So that's where these little pickups are awesome. I think they're called fence stakes or something. They're a kit that can come with this fence. Highly recommend getting these. I think this fence comes with like 4, but get the extra pack so you can do this on all the middle pieces. So I like to stick the fork between the bottom piece so it'll keep it on the ground, and then you can lift this up really tight like that, and look at that, we're looking really good now. Well, I totally had a fail and my batteries ran out, so you guys missed that last little bit of me putting down the mulch, but you didn't miss that much. Not too exciting, but I got the rest of the mulch down in that little section and I think it's going to be really nice. I'm pretty excited about this next step to improve the garden, I guess, with this whole border perimeter. I think it's really going to pay off. It's a lot of work. I'm tired now, very hungry, but I think it's good. Well, I'm excited to get back inside, get an update on the little chickies, and as soon as they start hatching, I'll bring you guys in so you can see the little guys.